Hello, and welcome to another Sunday chat with me, Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer. I think this is the 12th of December 2021, and you're very much welcome. Sorry, I'm not sitting by the fire as I have done on occasions recently. I'm back in the studio, and one of the reasons I wanted to be back in here, other than just for ease, by showing off some of the lovely Christmas cards. And thank you so much for those people who've sent them in to me. That's very kind of you, very much appreciated. I wanted to show off. Oh, it's on this side. Here we go. This magnificent screen that was given to the studio for me and Julia, or Julia and me, I should say, from Ron and Elaine in Aldwick, who said, we wanted something for your Vobe Show studio, and indeed for the Bald Explorer when you do things in the studio. And so they saw this, and it's got a camper van, as you can see, on there, and they thought it was appropriate. It's got the purple colour, which is the lovely Julia's colour, and it's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. So haven't quite worked out where to put it, but I'm sure that in the Vobe Show we're going to put it to some great use at some point. But in the meantime, it's a nice little diversion, isn't it? It's lovely. So thank you so much for that. People are so kind, as I've mentioned many times before, and they get behind and they support this channel, which is lovely. So thank you very much for that. It's a lovely screen. And yeah, I was absolutely thrilled. We went over to visit Ron and Elaine and had some mince pies. Talk about those in a minute. Not their mince pies. And we had a lovely time. Also met up with Mary and Phil Hammond whilst we were there. That was probably a week ago now. So this week just seems to have zipped by incredibly fast. I don't know whether you're the same, thinking that, and Christmas is coming, it's getting closer, and there are presents to buy and all those sort of things, and things to organise. And in my case, of course, there's videos to make. And I'm hoping, let's just move my microphone, there we go. I'm hoping that we get to keep up and keep making them. Good. Now, mince pies. I mentioned that. I've got a list of things, as ever, to talk about. Mince pies. I had a go. If you haven't seen the video, I had a go at making mince pies for myself. And I surprised myself, to be honest with you. My previous experience, as mentioned in that video, and people probably have seen, I tried to make, can't remember the pie I tried to make, but it just came out absolutely disgusting because I got the ingredients wrong. It just goes to show that you really do have to concentrate on the instructions. This time I studied the instructions. I did everything by the letter. I measured it all out accordingly. I think the last time my battery had gone in the weighing scale, so I was doing a few things by approximation. And actually, in the past when I've usually cooked, my sense of what would you say, approximate weights and volumes of things is generally pretty good. But I did cock it up completely dreadfully that time. However, this time, I cannot tell you how thrilled I was with the results of those mince pies, and I'm going to make some more. Not video them, because I've done that now, but I am going to make some more and cook them in the Essie. So that's something that I'm contemplating getting on with over the week. But however, I don't want to make too many of them, because knowing what went into them, all that butter that went into them, it's all, you can't have too much of that. But it's Christmas, isn't it? We can spoil ourselves just a little bit. And other people have suggested or mentioned in the comments that they have shop-bought ones, some of these cheap ones, and the lids have come off of the mince pies, and they've just seen this little squirt of goo in the middle. And you think, yeah, that's why I wanted to make them myself, because I knew exactly what the ingredients were, and I could put in as much of the so-called goo, or in my case the mince or the apple and blackberry, as I wanted. One thing I did think about on the apple and blackberry is what I should have done, and I will try it next time, is add a bit of cinnamon to the apple and blackberry, just to give it that sort of festive twist, I suppose. So anyway, they were very successful, and excuse me, thank you very much for everybody who said congratulations, they were tasty. Somebody sent me this. It came today, or rather it came Saturday. This is a book by Bernard Price. It's a lovely book. all about Sussex, and it's sort of more like little, I suppose, memoirs of things that have happened to the author in Sussex. It's a lovely book. The thing is that I'd have no idea who sent it. People often send things. Usually it comes with a little note or some clue, but somebody's clearly sent this to me and said, or maybe they mentioned it in a Facebook message and I've completely forgotten. But if whoever it is, do let me know, because I'd like to be able to thank you. It's very kind. So it's a lovely book with some lovely little bits in it. So anyway, there we are. That's what that is. But thank you very much. Very nice. It's reminded me of the Sussex Border Walk, or Borderlands, as I've now sort of changed it since I started to go along the border inland. And I know I haven't. I know. I feel very remiss. And every time we get to the point in the show where I have to talk about it, and I say, oh no, I haven't been out there. I've got this next section, and I really would like a lovely day, not too cold, not too windy, to get somewhere and work out where I can park and do the next bit of the Sussex border. And it's just, I've just not really been able to do it. There's no excuse. There's some days I just think, oh, I don't know. So I do hope to carry on with the Sussex Border Path. I'm squirming. I'm a bit like the Prime Minister at PMQs. I'm squirming because it's just something that I still want to desperately do, but I've been trying to do other things. And also, I've been very encouraged by the reaction to the domestic videos that I've done, the ones at home. People have been very kind and been very supportive and saying they want to see more of that kind of stuff. And I guess one of the reasons that they've been successful, I suppose, is that people can relate to many of the things that I'm up to in my house, because they've either doing some decoration themselves, or they've tackled certain tasks, or they're just very curious about this strange way of life that I have. Or maybe they have a very similar way of life. We all live very, very differently, and aren't we nosy? We love to see how other people do things in their abode. And I suppose having to cut wood, put it in the wood-burning stove, and not rely on the mains for electricity or gas to fire up the stove. Obviously, I've got electricity, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do the studio stuff. I mean, I'm not completely backward. I mean, I may be a bit, but I'm not completely. So I think some people think that's, it's a bit of a strange old way to go about things. But for me, as I've mentioned many times, it sort of connects me with the past and with tradition, and I love all that. Not so much the sweeping up the dust, the sawdust and the soot and all of that, but it is part of it. It keeps me very much grounded. But I'm thrilled that people do like the domestic videos, so thank you very much for letting me know about that. That's great, and that's positive feedback. I do like that, because it shows me that I can, in these cold winter months where the weather is a bit grim and one can't get out all the time, that it's okay to do that. And so I'm coming up with lots of ideas for the domestic videos, but when I can get out, I really do try, and sometimes they are combined with other things that I'm doing. So, for example, did go to Selham in the most recent video, which is this little village that I said, is it a hamlet? Because there was only a few houses there. But as somebody pointed out in the comments, well, if it's got a church and a pub, then it's a village. Whereas a hamlet, I think, doesn't have a church. So that's a very good point. So it was a tiny little village, probably a farming community that's spread out, and one of those things where there's a crossroads, and that's pretty much it. There's a big central farm. There probably was some form of manor house there, I don't know. And it's very close to the polo grounds, which I didn't go and investigate, which I must do on another occasion, perhaps on the way towards Midhurst as part of the Cowdray estate. It's interesting, the people you talk to when you're doing this sort of stuff on location, they tell you little snippets and you think, oh yeah, I must put that in. And thanks also for the info about the Petworth to Midhurst line, about it closing in 1955. Now, somebody said that the Three Moles pub was the waiting room for the train station, which was opposite. And then somebody else said, when I mentioned that, they said, no, that's not true. So you can't always believe everything that you read in the comments, because people think they know the answers and some people don't know the answer, and you don't know who's right or wrong in the end. It doesn't really matter. As long as we all have a good time, what the hell? But it was fascinating to learn as much as we can, and it was lovely. Apparently, there are some stretches, but not very much, of the railway that you can actually walk along, the disused railway, obviously, not a railway that's still running, because that would be unadvisable, but very little of it. And that's a shame, because it's quite nice to do a walk along a railway. Not so much, I find, for making videos, because walking along a railway, unless you are a very hard-nosed railway buff, it's quite monotonous. It's all very level. You've got trees usually either side of you, and the track just goes on. And there might be a few things that you come to, unless, of course, you're doing a long walk where you're doing a whole length and you stop off and have a look at the stations, at what were the stations, and perhaps the pubs in the landscape. So you could sort of use it as an anchor, and then just as a route, and then you come off here and nip into there and nip into there. So maybe it would work. I know people have encouraged me to have a look at some of these disused railways myself, although there are lots of people, I think, doing videos on that sort of thing. So that's one of the reasons that I've kind of avoided them. Somebody who I don't want to avoid is Ricky. He's appeared in a couple of videos, and we've had a good old laugh, and people do like Ricky appearing in the videos. Every now and again, you find somebody who's on your wavelength, and Ricky said he'd love to do another walk, which was great. He appeared in the Vobes show the other night in this studio, and we had a hoot, and I think people very much enjoyed that. So we're going to try and get another walk in fairly soon. Not quite sure when, but he's going to contact me, because he works for a living, poor bugger. I mean, I work, but my work is this. I'm working now. At least I hope I'm working. So we're going to do that. We have got planned our overnight in a camper van, each of us taking our camper vans, and which will be great, because we can compare notes and show the audience how each of us would get a camp together. And if we could find somewhere where we can have a little fire and cook something up, that's what goes through my mind. I think we'd have a hoot with that as well. But that probably will be in more in the spring, I imagine, when the days are longer, because it gets dark very quickly. And days are short and cold, and we don't want to just show ourselves sitting in vans shivering, just drinking tea to keep warm. But there we are. Also, I mentioned this in the last video, but thanks for all the comments and the worries and the concerns and everything about the little mini fire that I've got, the little butane fire. That was an interesting experiment to do. I have yet to take it out further and do more with it. Somebody said that butane is not very good under, I think, something like 5 degrees centigrade, that it won't... what happens is the liquid... at a certain temperature will not turn into gas, and so therefore you'll turn it on and nothing will happen, which will be very frustrating. It begs the question why they would sell such a thing or market such a thing if, as a heater, when it's cold, it doesn't work. So I'm a bit confused by that, but that may be the chemistry or the science behind it, that in relatively extreme. I mean, 5 degrees isn't that cold, but cold enough that you want to put the fire on, if you see what I mean. And so why that wouldn't work, I don't know, but we will see. So I will do some more experiments with that and report back, because I know that some people will be interested. I know everybody was saying, get yourself a carbon monoxide detector. Yes, of course, I must try and find one of those and put that in the van. There are other ways of doing it, and I have thought about an actual wood-burning stove, a little tiny portable one that you feed twigs into, and you'd have to have a chimney, and the chimney would have to fit onto a plate that fits on the window and then comes out. The problem is, if you parked up in anywhere, shall we say, an urban environment, people might ring the fire brigade, as other YouTubers have had, and discover that the van's on fire. And the last thing you really need in the middle of the night is the fire brigade turning up, dousing you with cold water. That's my thoughts anyway. But there might be a sort of thing for that. Christmas is coming, as I mentioned before. People have asked me, will I be doing a Philip Mercer story on Christmas? And I do hope to have a Christmassy. I'll have to have a look in the book and see if there's anything festive, at least one of his more macabre stories that apparently people or his. What do you call the people who go to church? The congregation. People of his congregation have told him these stories back in 1830s when the book was published. And yeah, I'll have a look. He's got loads of stories in there. Whether they're true or not, who knows? But they're great entertainment. So we'll have a look, and I'll hopefully have one of those stories over the Christmas period. So we'll see what we can do. It's possible that I will do a live stream for an hour on Christmas Day, probably. I'll let you know about that. It's just something I'm toying with. I'm also toying with the possible thing about having a bit of an open door on Christmas Day if anyone wants to come in between certain hours, if they know where I am, and have a mince pie and a cup of tea. But I have yet to finalise that and the live show. So, I mean, if somebody wants to join me on the live show, if you're sitting there doing nothing, you could join me via your webcam. So you haven't got to leave and drive here, and you could join me for a Christmas chat on Christmas Day. That's just something that I'm toying with. Let me know what you think about that. I know most people are very busy with festive things and children and parents and what have you, but if we do get locked down and we're all a bit bored, it might be something to look forward to. Obviously, it won't be around 3:00 because who knows? This might be the Queen's last Christmas message to the Commonwealth, and nobody would want to miss that, of course. She is, bless her, she's getting on. But we hope it's not the last. But so I'm not quite sure. I'll work on that as a possible thing. And of course, there may well be in the evening a live Vobes show. And again, I believe Christmas is on a Saturday, isn't it? So it will be a special type of thing. But don't hold me to any of this at the moment. Anyway, that's all the things I've had to talk about. Thanks for all the lovely cards. Except I wanted to mention this one thing that came in, and no doubt I'll mention it in another Bald Explorer. A lovely lady called Julia, who has her own YouTube channel, which features her camper van, which I can't remember what it's called now, a Mango Bongo, whatever it is. It's a something bongo, you probably know. I always forget these things. She very kindly said, would I like a knitted hat? And she knitted me this amazing hat here with a bobble on it. Look, can you see the bobble on the top? She asked me what colour I would like, and she gave me a choice. I said, maroon sounds great. It's a beautiful hat. It's lovely and warm, and I very much appreciate it, Julia. She has her YouTube channel, and every now and again I've discovered, having watched it, that her husband or partner is called Richard. So there's another Richard and Julia in a YouTube channel going around, and she's Welsh, and it all takes place in Wales, although they travel around doing all sorts of interesting bits and bobs. Now, I know you're itching to know, what is it called? Who is this lady? Well, it's called Imp of B. And I think this stands for the importance of being, which confused me a bit because when I first heard that, I thought it meant it was taken from The Importance of Being Earnest, which is a stage play by Oscar Wilde. But I don't think it's that. I think it's something else. The lovely Julia, the lovely Julia of the Bald Explorer world, said that it has something to do with the hippie world. I don't really know that. But anyway, the channel is Imp of B, and I'll put a link to it in the description below. So check it out. She very kindly knitted me this hat. If you like somebody else going around exploring all sorts of things and doing bits and bobs, it might be something for you. So I think it's only fair to share and enjoy when you can all these other people who are doing YouTube channels, especially when they reach out to you and say, can I knit you a hat? And you say, yes, absolutely. So there we go. Imp of B, check it out. It's really good. Anyway, that's it for my Sunday chat, and no idea at the moment what the next video will be, but over the next day or so, I should be busy doing something, checking out the weather and checking out whether I'm indoors or out. Anyway, take care. Have a good Sunday if you've watched it on a Sunday, and I will catch up with you next time. Bye-bye.